I won't be able to see the chat until after I'm done talking because both of my screens are occupied. But I really appreciate this opportunity to come back and speak to the Deception Research Society again. I am a professor of communication at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and I've been studying deception for about 25 years, and I'm very interested in sort of the new things that have cropped up in the last few years. In fact, I was honored to be the very first speaker of the Deception Research Society of these monthly talks. Back in 2021, I was invited to give sort of the inaugural talk. And what I did in that talk was I spoke about three different challenges that I thought at that moment were facing deception research societies, the Deception Research Society. The three challenges I identified in that talk were what I call the elephant problem, which is basically different people from different disciplines have a hard time seeing the whole problem of deception. So some people are working on, facial recognition algorithms, and some people are working on sort of theoretical problems, and we aren't really very good at putting that all together. I also talked about what I call the whack-a-mole problem, which is the idea that countermeasures are constantly being created to combat the ways that we are finding to detect deception. And then the other problem I identified was that the divide between practitioners and scholars who study deception in the lab is often very big, and they don't talk to each other very much. So practitioners learn important things in the field, and researchers learn important things in the lab, and rarely do the two come together. I think this is one place, this Deception Research Society, over the past 3 years, I've attended almost all of the meetings every month, and I really enjoy the fact that there are both practitioners and researchers here together. But back in 2021, this was February of 2021, I didn't know that there was something big coming on the horizon, which I think has really changed the game. And what I'm intending to do today is not really talk about research so much as really open this up as a conversation space for us to talk about some of the problems and issues that we're going to be facing, I think, as a group of people who are really interested in deception. ChatGPT was launched in November 2022, which was a year and a half after my talk, and I did not see it coming. I was not plugged into this world, and I did not realize what an effect it was going to have. Less than 3 months after that release, the website of ChatGPT was enjoying around 1 billion visits a month and 25 million visitors a day. To say it's a game changer is really an understatement. Many people still refer to ChatGPT as the best AI chatbot released to date, but I'm not willing to stake a claim on that because things seem to change on a daily basis in the AI world. But ChatGPT offers human-like intuitive answers. It has a very vast knowledge base, and it's very versatile. It can talk to you on a variety of topics. It's also got problems. It draws often on outdated or incorrect information. If you think about the whole of the internet and how much garbage there is in the internet, it's drawing from all of it. It's also poor, it does a poor job tracking of its sources. I asked it once to write a annotated bibliography of the collected scholarly works of Dr. Norah Dunbar, and it just made stuff up. It wrote things that I never said. It gave me credit for articles I never wrote. It introduced me to co-authors I had never heard of. These are what we call hallucinations, where it basically just makes things up, but it sounds very real. And so if someone wasn't familiar with my scholarly works, they might not even notice that some of those things were made up. But what we're starting to see is people wanting to use AI for deception detection. And I think this should scare us for a few reasons. I think we're already seeing almost daily in newspapers around the world about the problems that we have when we trust AI sort of blindly. We hopefully all saw this case of the professor in Texas who failed half of his class after ChatGPT falsely claimed it wrote their papers, and it had not written their papers. And like I said, just a classic case of sort of an AI hallucination. There's also been some critique of using AI at the border for deception detection and trying to identify problematic people. This is from Le Monde magazine, and the headline's in French, but in English it says, "Experienced lie detectors at Europe's external borders, supposed to speed up checks and strengthen security. The border system, which failed the test, carried out anonymously by an Italian journalist, is attracting a lot of criticism." So there are a lot of cases where we're relying on AI to detect bad actors, and it is failing and basically flagging people inappropriately. I recently wrote a paper with some of my co-authors listed here, Uj Delma, Vincent Deneau, Judy Burgoon, and myself. We presented this at the ICA conference in Paris, and it's just been accepted for publication in Journal of Nonverbal Behavior. And what we did was a review of automatic lie detection from facial features only, which I already recognize is not ideal because I believe that it should be a multimodal problem. But we've focused in on the face because that is clearly where the vast amount of literature is. People are going crazy using AI, trying to detect deception from the face. What we found in our review is that almost half the literature comes from a single data set. There's a data set on real courtroom videos where they've identified deceptions in courtroom testimony, and a lot of the literature is from that single data set. When they make other data sets, they're often very small, less than 50 people in the data set. Most of the journal articles are written in the field of computer science, and they often publish in that field in their proceedings from conferences, not in journals. And so those articles tend to be very short. They don't have very long literature reviews. They aren't very theoretically based. They are really just looking for algorithms that can read faces and assuming that that means that they can then distinguish between truths and lies. The computer scientists tend to rely very heavily on the facts coding system and on action units, not on the more dynamic aspects of the face. And we kind of saw this as problematic because we have 50 years of communication and psychology research that's basically being tossed aside and not taken into account when people are trying to develop algorithms for detecting deception. The performance was better than the 54% you often see in the literature of human detectors. It went between 61 and 73%, depending on which classifier they're using. So it's an improvement, but clearly we're nowhere close to the 100% accuracy that I would want to use if people's lives are on the line. I think there's a problem when we leave humans out of the loop. If we just use algorithms to try and detect deception, we have a real problem. So we have examples of this already. There's a New York Times article from last fall where a father took pictures of his naked toddler for the doctor. The toddler had an infection, and they were doing telemedicine, and he took pictures of his toddler's private parts and sent them to the doctor. And Google flagged this as child trafficking or child pornography, even though it was clear that it was at the behest of a doctor and that it was for a medical reason. He was actually investigated by the police, but was cleared of any criminal charges. But Google has still, to my knowledge, not released him from any wrongdoing. His Google account was shut down. He lost all of his work emails. He lost all of his photographs. He lost decades worth of work that had been stored in Google Drive. So this is what happens when we leave it to the algorithms alone. I'm glad that Dave Markowitz is here. He has a great new article with his colleague, Jeff Hancock, where they looked at using things like ChatGPT and other generative AI to try and detect whether or not people are telling the truth. And what they found is that AI shares the same biases that humans have. And in some cases, in terms of the truth bias, it might even be more biased than humans are. So I think it's important to keep that in mind and recognize that AI is not faultless, and we need to be a partner with the AI. I'm familiar with a company called Discern Science, which I will disclose that I have been a paid consultant for Discern Science, which is how I know how they operate. And one of the things that they advocate in their avatar system is that the avatar or the AI needs to partner with humans. You cannot just turn things over to the AI and allow them to make decisions. You really have to make sure that humans are part of this equation. Just like with the case with Google and flagging people as being child pornographers when they're really trying to interact with a doctor, you need to make sure that people are not just being denied access at borders or being tagged as criminals or terrorists without any kind of human intervention. Now, I don't know the answer. How do you collaborate with an AI? How do you connect the human and the AI together? I think this is our next most important challenge that I hope deception researchers take seriously, and we don't just leave this up to programmers who are developing algorithms who are going to try and do this more efficiently and leave humans out of the loop. So that's my thoughts, and I really welcome a conversation and discussion about this.